This is the dream of millions, a house of your own. A comfortable house on a quiet street with friendly neighbors. Maybe even a yard with a lawn, perhaps some flowers. Let's say you could choose any style house you wanted. Which would you choose? Remember, the style of a house speaks to the world about its owner. What would your choice say? Perhaps your style will be one of many intended to impress. This house announces its owner is wealthy and conservative. Or your style might speak of comfort and use words like cozy and charming. Your house would show shelter from a hectic world. Or maybe your choice would be sleek and modern. It would proclaim taste and learning. It would speak of the future and reject the worn-out past. Let me bring some styles to life so you can get to know them better, so you can recognize them in your neighborhood and learn their names and values. Here's our first style.
Let me tell you about myself. I'm a Tudor-style house. I'm still built today, but I was most popular during the 1920s and 30s, especially in upscale suburbs. I took off during the Roaring '20s. I was the rage in style when Calvin Coolidge was president, when Babe Ruth was the great American hero, and when women's fashions looked like this. I'm based on Old English designs. William Shakespeare was born here, and you can certainly see my influence in the house. I'm named for the Tudor family that ruled 16th century England. Here's how you can identify me. I have a steeply pitched roof. That makes for sharp gables. A gable, by the way, is that triangular wall segment formed by the pitch of the roof. Sometimes I have multiple gables. Or I might have one large gable, often with a tall chimney dominating my front. Half timbering is visible on my outer walls. Back in the Middle Ages, those timbers actually held me together. Today, it's mostly design. Notice my tall chimney with ornamental brickwork and chimney pots at the top. That's an important part of my style. I am constructed of a mix of materials like stone, stucco, and wood, sometimes all in one wall. Here I have brick, wood half timbers, pattern applications of stone, and some stucco on the second floor. A group of tall, narrow casement windows is another feature of my style. By the way, a casement window is one that swings open from the side. I'm also likely to have bay windows, sometimes even hanging from the second floor. A bay window is a set of 2 or more windows that protrudes out from the wall. People feel I'm romantic, dignified, yet comfortable. You think medieval is an ancient influence? Let me introduce you to another style, neoclassical.
I'm based on ancient Greek and Roman ideas of beauty and proportion, perfected over 2,000 years ago. That makes the Tudor style a youngster in my book. If you know what Greek temples and buildings look like, you'll be able to see my influence. I was nearly a fad from the 1830s through the 1850s. Anything Greek was really in, I believe you say. Many cities founded in the 1840s were named for Greek towns. There is a Sparta in Tennessee, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Virginia, and Oregon. And at least 16 cities are named Athens. You see, Americans were very proud of their democratic ideals, and they viewed themselves as the continuation of Grecian democracy. So what better style for the new democracy? In fact, I wasn't called Greek Revival back then. I was simply the national style. I was popular in buildings like banks, courthouses, post offices, and libraries. You can see my influence today, especially in New York, Pennsylvania, and much of the Midwest. Sure, I was something of a fad, but I made a comeback after 1900. That might surprise you because that was the age of progress and new technology. Automobiles existed when I gained my new life. Of course, they had to fight with horses, and people realized that the ancient dream of flying just might be possible with the right machine. I was again popular when the Titanic set sail on its ill-fated voyage in 1912. This time around, I was called Neoclassic, or Classical Revival. I remained popular until about 1940. You can see my influence in any city. Here's what to look for. My key identifying mark is the column. Some folks call this Southern Colonial because it was popular for Southern plantation mansions. But it's really me, neoclassical style. Just look for the pillars, especially ones 2 stories tall. If the dwelling is too modest for full-height pillars, smaller ones will do. If you see a column on a house, it's probably not there to hold up a roof. It's there to symbolize the dignity of ancient Greece. Often, the columns support a porch roof designed to resemble a Greek temple. This porch and roof combination is called a portico. This Greek temple front is a common theme in American homes, from grand mansions to humble homes. American homes of various styles have a front door set off with a classical surround. A surround is simply the woodwork surrounding the door. A suggestion of columns with a triangular top is one common classical surround. That triangular top is called a pediment. Here, the pediment has a gap in the center and is called a broken pediment. It is based on designs in Greek temples, and you will find it in houses, as well as furniture. Being classic, I'm especially fond of a carefully balanced symmetry. In other words, formal balance. 2 windows on one side are balanced by 2 on the other. A chimney on the right side is balanced by the same sized chimney on the left. I'm often built of brick, but if I'm made of wood, I'm usually painted white, probably to mirror the white marble of my Greek ancestors. What message do I send? I speak of reason and authority. In my full mansions, I'm formal, perhaps even intimidating. I'm not here to be cozy. I strive to impress. But my designs influence so many ordinary houses, I think that old Greek idea of democracy comes into play. Maybe simple houses like this cottage suggest that ancient ideals of democracy are not only for the wealthy. That's a very American idea.
I'm sometimes called a big old Victorian. Here I am in my popular Queen Anne style. True, I don't have much to do with the 18th century reign of Queen Anne, but I was one of the styles popular in Victorian America. I was the Mercedes and BMW of housing styles in my day. From about 1875 to 1895, I was a sign of status, of membership in the Gilded Age. That's why you can still see me in large houses, often on conspicuous corner lots, constructed by prosperous businessmen. Here are some of my identifying marks. My style is marked by long, sweeping porches. The porch then served much like the family room of today. Queen Anne houses today are usually white, but originals were multicolored. So you see, I was a lively, innovative, romantic style. I borrow ideas from past ages. Yes, those turrets and towers are throwbacks to the Middle Ages. But some of my details are classical. I borrowed a lot from past styles. In that way, I'm very much like contemporary houses built in the 1990s. I'm an eclectic style. You viewers think of me as old-fashioned, but in my youth, I was high-tech, state-of-the-art. Power tools were available to build me. That's one reason I feature so much intricate wood cutting. Today, this ornamentation is sometimes called gingerbread. Especially in the Midwest, I was among the first to use the balloon frame method of construction. This method is still used today. It replaced methods that required more skilled labor and made shape variations easier. That's why I have so many bay windows. That's one of my characteristics. About half of all Queen Anne houses have a cutaway bay window beneath a steep gable. Just look at my lines. Lots of bays and nooks and crannies. No plain, unbroken surfaces. No, sir, balloon framing made all sorts of interesting details possible. Patterned wood shingles are another trademark of my style. I was a neglected style for about 80 years. Architects and designers criticized what they saw as my excess decoration. Now, finally, people are starting to restore me to what I call my original splendor. About time, I say.
I'm a mild-mannered bungalow. Compared to those Victorian painted ladies, I'm a breath of fresh air. It's sad, though. Folks aren't building bungalows anymore. I fell out of favor. I was very popular from around 1910 all the way to the Great Depression, but I became associated with small-town ideas. In the 1920s, Woodrow Wilson accused his political opponent Warren Harding of having a bungalow mind. That hurt. I'm a reaction to what folks saw as Victorian excess. Over in England, the arts and crafts movement spread the gospel of simplicity and the integrity of natural materials. A handful of California architects applied these ideas to houses, especially the bungalow. I was at my best in California. There, I often illustrated a high degree of craftsmanship. Craftsmen believed that materials should be left as close as possible to their natural state. Take wood, for example. Earlier styles, from colonial through Victorian, assumed wood surfaces should be painted. Wood had to be disguised in order to be civilized, they believed. But I said, let wood look like wood. My walls were often stained a natural shade of brown, and exposed rafters or braces could often be seen beneath roof overhangs. I tried hard to fit into my building site, to blend with the natural background. That's a major change from the Victorian styles that tried to dominate the landscape. My front porch is a key to my style. A glass-paned front door that opens directly onto the living room is another. I sport a long, low-pitched roof, often with a gabled dormer or a shallow shed dormer. A dormer is a structure on a sloping roof, almost always with a window. So a gabled dormer means the window has a gable housing, like this. A shed dormer has only a sloped flat roof like this, but no gable. I'm a ranch-style house. Okay, so I've never been within 100 miles of a ranch, but that's what they call me. This is what fashions looked like when I came on the scene. It was the mid-1930s when a group of California architects first built my style. 30 years later, styles looked like this. But I was still in fashion. Why did I become so popular? Well, the American love affair with the automobile had a lot to do with it. In fact, you could say the popularity of the automobile made me a success. I was the perfect style for the commuter suburbs. Remember that many styles that came before me featured a huge porch? Well, that porch was one way neighbors got together. But with so much traffic, houses were set back from the road. The front was given to a driveway and a garage. The large front porch was replaced by a smaller version, more decorative than practical. The porch was replaced by a more private patio, the word borrowed from the Spanish patio, at the rear. Some say replacing the public open front with a private secure front spelled the death of the neighborhood as a community of people who know each other. I was the first style with an attached garage. You'll notice older houses have garages apart from the house, usually in the backyard. Why were they separate before me? Well, remember that before cars, the garage was really the carriage barn. The horses stayed there. Whew, best to keep those horses at a distance. So cars created the attached garage. Those cars are quiet at night, and they don't smell either. I almost always had a front lawn with a large window. People called it a picture window in the front. I don't have much decorative detailing except perhaps shutters and porch roof supports. Let me introduce you to a style you probably don't have in your neighborhood. Prairie style.
I'm associated with the ideas and work of one man, Frank Lloyd Wright. At the beginning of the 20th century, he proposed and built organic houses that seemed to grow on their sites and harmonize with the land. Wright created a uniquely American style of architecture that grew out of the Midwestern prairie and shared the prairie's horizontal lines as a visual theme. Simplicity rules, and ornamentation is part of the house, never applied as decoration. Prairie houses give a feeling of protective shelter. The main entryway is often so protected as to be almost hidden. Materials are used honestly, with no pretense or disguise. Wright was enough of a visionary that I still look contemporary today. It's hard to believe I was built in 1901. I feature strong horizontals, accented by substantial eaves. That's the part of the roof extending beyond the wall. The overhang extends my horizontal lines and helps unite me to the land. The overhang also protects me from warm summer sun while letting sunlight in during the winter. Vertical casement windows are grouped in bands. Many of Wright's earlier works also featured leaded stained glass windows that serve both to screen and decorate. Let me introduce you to a style far removed from Wright's prairie style, Colonial Revival.
I'm the most popular housing style built in 20th century America. Most houses you call colonial are really Colonial Revival. I'm loosely based on styles built in the original 13 colonies. In fact, some of my original ancestors still stand. I come in quite a few varieties. Think of me as a family. Some of us are careful recreations of original American architecture, built with the goal of preserving architectural ideas of early America. But most are rather loose interpretations. We have some authentic colonial detailing, but also much simplification and additions. Our family has a number of branches. A typical member of the Dutch branch of our family has a unique gambrel-styled roof. Here the porch is supported by Greek columns. Very few of these houses really follow early Dutch examples, so it's not the most authentic style, but it is charming and comfortable. The Dutch influence is especially strong in New York and Pennsylvania. Another branch of Colonial Revival speaks with a Spanish accent. Spanish Colonial Revival houses have a low-pitched, nearly flat roof, often of red clay with little or no overhang. The white stucco walls reflect hot sunshine, keeping the houses cool. They often have arched entries, carved wood doors, second-story balconies, decorative ironwork, and glazed tiles. Another sizable branch of my family is New England Colonial. One branch is patterned loosely after early wooden folk houses of eastern Massachusetts. This one is called a salt box, supposedly because that's how small sheds built to hold salt were shaped. The walls here are wood clapboards, boards that overlap to keep out icy winter winds. This Cape Cod cottage style was popular from the 1900s to the 1940s. It often has a classical doorway with small pillars and a classical pediment. The walls here are clapboards, but are often of shingles. The Georgian part of our family is a colonial house with an upper-class accent. It starts as a plain rectangular box, usually side-gabled like this one. About 1/4 of all Colonial Revival houses are like this. It's the simple farmhouse all dressed up with formal balance. This Georgian speaks of reason and order. It shows symbols of authority. It has applied ornamentation, usually drawn from ancient Greece or Rome. Modern-day Georgians are usually large and made of brick. This example has the proper symmetry. And yes, colonial houses did sometimes have dormers on the roof, just like this house. The Georgian style is a symbol of upper social mobility. From 1890 to 1930, it was the most popular choice for the rich and upper middle class. Why do we so often borrow from the past for our housing styles? Remember that styles are visual expressions of values. We find in the past a sense of belonging, a link with those who came before. This feeling is the essence of being at home. It helps explain why my colonial family is still popular and why some newer styles I'm about to introduce are still minority choices. Let me introduce you to contemporary styles.
I have an identity problem. What am I? You would probably say I'm contemporary, but what are my great-grandchildren gonna call me? Contemporary just means now. I mean, Greek Revival was once contemporary, and this, you might call this Gothic, but when it was popular during the 1850s, folks called it the modern art style. After World War II, a school of design known as International Style was to be for the modern age what the Greeks were to ancient times. That was a style designed to end what the architects saw as 40 years of confusion. The International School influenced commercial buildings more than houses. I used concrete, glass, and steel. Parts of my construction, such as girders, beams, and my frame, changed from something to hide to part of the style of the building. I let my inside show. In many ways, I completely rejected what people found pleasant in Victorian styles. One of my founding fathers, Mies van der Rohe, coined the often repeated phrase, "Less is more." A typical building of my style is an undecorated steel or concrete box made of standardized parts with a flat roof and a skin of glass. I am functional and stark. You can see my influence in today's urban skyline. Only a small number of purely international style residences were ever built in North America, but my philosophy influenced contemporary residential architecture. So, here I am in my stark and simple form. My lines and planes are an exercise in geometric forms. So far, the public feels I'm a little too minimal. They like more drama, yes, even gingerbread in their houses. Today's architect-designed homes tend not to be the futuristic machines for living proposed by the International School, nor the highly formal Georgian styles. Instead, much like Victorian times, we like to pick and choose from the past. Today's most popular style could be called neo-eclectic. Our neo-eclectic homes bear signs of having known Tudors, of acquaintance with Victorians, and certainly with Colonials. But they are cleaner of line, simpler, yet they speak of the past. For example, you've seen a window arrangement like this on contemporary houses, but it's not a modern idea. It's called a Palladian window, after its designer, the 16th century Italian Andrea Palladio. Americans have used this window on many styles for over 150 years. It's a popular upgrade offered by builders, usually for a window in the center of the house. It was used at the turn of the century in romantic Victorian houses, and it's still used in architect-designed houses being built right now. That's what I mean by eclectic. One of the most recent styles of architecture is called postmodern. Houses in this style are few, but postmodern commercial buildings are more common. It borrows creatively from the past. So next time you pass down a street, you might be able to greet housing styles by name. Why, there's a colonial with classical influence. And right next door, a house with Georgian style. There's a Garrison colonial. All these are part of housing American style and part of the dreams of millions. There are many more styles, but these include the ones you are most likely to see today. I hope you get to know them better.